Hey, it's the Chief Bonding with Board Games. This is a review of the Conflict of Heroes Storms of Steel 3rd edition. This is Kursk. This is the Russian front, 1943. Think giant tank battles. What we've got with edition 3, and there was no edition 2. Edition 1 looked like this. You've got an upgrade in the maps. You've got a action die, which we will dive into and I'll show you a lot more on. You've got upgraded maps from the edition 1, very similar to Awakening the Bear 2nd edition. The maps are almost photorealistic. It looks like you're looking almost at like a satellite image. And then there's some smoothing out and upgrading of both the missions, the layouts, and the rules. What you're also seeing on the board here is, so Awakening the Bear, the first game in the system is 1941 Russian front, the initial invasion. You've got Price of Honor, which is Poland, 39. Russia coming in from one side, Germany from the other, Poland in the middle. And Guadalcanal Pacific Theater, 1942. In the family currently. But let's go in, let me show you what this looks like, some of the adjustments, and the all-important, what is this action die? Does it work? All right, we're going to open up with some direct comparisons, or as close as I can get. So this is actually Awakening the Bear's tray that I have in here, 2nd edition, just so you can get an idea. So it's this full-size tray. It locks down really well. But you can see kind of how I spread the units out. Let me spin this around. All right. But the tray locks in really well. However, I space the units out almost too much. And sometimes they will get loose like this. And they just get jumbled in their general tray, their little storage area. But they don't end up all over the place, and the tray does a wonderful job of holding everything at least in the tray, and I spread them out more than other folks do. So let's look at the other tray. So instead of other tray, you have other trays. So here are my Russians. Now I've got a rubber band on this. I love the idea, these are from game trays, that I can just hand this over. But you can kind of see how it's popping up and it's a little loose on either side. These are designed to lay down slightly, which allows you to see them better. I like. You got the middle area for the dice, but they don't clamp down in the middle. Let me show you. So I'm going to hold this so I don't lose it. But you can see how it's already kind of popping up. So I love this concept, this idea. Now I can't get those to lay back down, but I store my games on the side, and these will not only get messed up, they won't get messed up in here. I was afraid, I know this lid would have come off, and they would be all over the inside of the board. So I clamp them down as best I can. This holds. They're close enough in the box that this doesn't really move around too much. And I try not to jostle them. But these are similar, so that would be the Russian tray, the German tray. You can see they lay out beautifully. And I think even with the Russians, just so I could pick up my SMGs, I can't remember. I thought I had the SMGs. I had their facing deal off to the side so I could pick them out much easier. So again, I think we're close. More on this later. But it's a little bit of a miss for me. Also, all your random, your game tokens, victory point tokens, things like that. The last tray holds your cards, your hit counters, and your stress markers. I do love what they've done here. The vehicle hits, so for the tracked vehicles, you've got blue, which matches the hit rate also on your counters, so the hit kind of notation is blue, and they're separated. It used to be more like a dark maroon, and then this color red. Again, these trays are nice, but I put a twist tie even on this one because I was out of rubber bands. Hand it off to my partner. He's like, what are you doing here? But let me show you. Your player track sheet used to be this. So everybody had their round track, their victory points, their caps, and their APs. It has been slicked up, and I love it. So now there's only one VP and round tracker. That's how it should be. It sits at the top usually when I'm playing. You have a counter that will tell you in the beginning of the game, the mission setup will say, whatever, Soviets 1 VP. And you'll have them with the counter here. And if the Germans pick up a victory point, the flip side of the counter is German. And it just allows you to flip it, and then they're counting up. And then if the Russians get a victory point, it drops the German down. If the Russians got another one, drops the Germans down to 1. And if the Russians got another one, boom, the counter flips. Now it goes back to Russians having 1. So you have this tug-of-war push-pull track. It's slick. I like it. It's a nice, clean look. Now, you have enough of these for 4 people to play. I'm going to show you this here. So your command points look very similar. You know, cleaned up, made a little jazzier. You can see you've still got these caps, but there is no green AP tracker. What they've got showing you here is, one, some little brief rules on the spent check. All right, you can see that over here as well. And then it gives you the percentages of what you're going to roll. The die, which I'm going to show you in a second, is weighted. All right, I'm going to go through the maps. I've got the 1st edition and the 3rd edition Storms of Steel maps here. I did not do that with the overlays. These are the 3rd edition overlays. You can see how nice they are. They are double-sided, which is just lovely. So you get a lot of map options with these overlays. I will not show you the counterpart, but you can see a little bit. There's a hill, how nice they are. But let's do a direct comparison to Edition 1. So map 7 and map 7. See if we can keep glare off. But you can see the buildings here. All right, we've got the cornfield, the wheat field, the road, the woods. And then you've got the exact same map. All right, and you can just kind of see, at least visually, how much different they are. More appealing. You can still tell stone building, all right, and wood buildings, and you can see that on the map. So, flip side, again. All right, rulebook. So, 3rd edition, original edition. But if we flip in, you can see we're explaining the same information. But what I really want to get into is, again, a lot of space is dedicated to the visual teaching. So right off the bat, you're getting everything labeled and explained, and not that this was difficult at all, but you can just see kind of the text that's laid in rather than these boxed out windows. You got a little bit bigger text, and it's as if they know, hey, we've got plenty of space. We'll make the real rule book longer. But let me get into a lot of neat little World War II art in here as well. So again, you can see it's just the presentation is just a little bit, no, it's a lot more refined. Everything was perfect on this first one. As far as reading through, and red text is specific explanations, and blue text is designer notes. But you're going to see this kind of warmer tan background. What you have is, again, the blue are designer notes, but they're in a whole box. So they're boxed out. And red, you will see, is boxed out. And we're going to get to more red. You can see how they've created their own entire box rather than just red text or blue text. And you could get kind of these walls of text in the original manual. Again, it makes sense. It's an explanation. They spend tons of time showing you pictures, but the layout is even cleaner. And I had no problem with the layout before. So you're seeing how your unit sits in a hex, and how facing and front and rear, sorry, the glare, these are glossy. And you're seeing the explanation of wheat and corn, and again, specific examples. And you just get a feeling like, hey, we have plenty of space to give you these examples in red and the designer notes in blue. Otherwise, the information is laid out not really much different from the other version. It walks you deeper and deeper into the game as you learn things, and then you'll go play mission 1 and you learn as you go, which makes it very easy to step up and into. Here's your cards. This carries through, we'll get to the cards in a second, in an even much bigger way over the mission book. So here you've got some history of Kursk and the historical notes of what's going on. In this game, here, all right? So again, you have a more visual appealing entry, but then look at this. So here is your entry to kind of how this stuff's going to work. All right, it starts you right off on firefight 1, clear and secure. But what this opening page is here is explaining how this mission book is going to be laid out. It's got the little codes that are going to walk you through setup. This is showing you what the left-hand page is going to give you, your historical situation and all your notes for gameplay. And the right-hand side is going to show you the map. So it's easier for me to just flip you over and look. And I'm going to do a comparison with the other one. So you got a whole page showing you the map setup. Now that might encompass multiple maps and everything, or maybe it's just one map. And instead of these yellow lines that come across, they've got what almost looks like a wall showing you the setup area of your units, where everything's going to go. It's bigger. It's the same on each page. The code breakdown on, you're going to start with 2 of the cards. You're going to get 1 a turn. Both sides, the Russians and the Germans, are going to have 6 caps. So let me show you. You would have this smaller area showing you the map, showing you the setup, and it was all done on 1 page generally. Now you've got a lot more dedication to the courier's satchel. Fun mission. So now we're on to mission 2, Twilight's Last Gleam. And again, you can see there's been some change. So here, the courier's satchel was firefight 2, and clear and secure was firefight 1, and then wind or sniper. All right, Twilight's Last Gleam. Now we get into the historical notes. You can see there's some pages of that, and then here's wind or sniper. So, wind or sniper, just this page. Information's here. Again, it wasn't hard to figure out. Sometimes you had to refer back to whatever caps again. What's the deal? What are we looking for? The yellow stripe showing setup areas. And now you've got this. Just a better layout in general. I'll flip through a couple of these so you can see. But they're always, your information's here. Your maps are over here. How many cards you're going to get it set up. How many you're going to draw each turn. Are there special cards in play? All right, and the last thing on direct comparison, and then we'll get in and show some gameplay. So, this was lighter cardstock, but it was double-sided. So you can see the layout, and here's the new heavier cardstock, and here's the picture that goes with it. Now the flip side had this, whereas here you have a whole different card that has a much larger area showing you that. And again, I love this, coming in with common turn actions, how combat works. And so you can see this information here. But this was flipped, double-sided. I wish I had 2 cards just like this, but I had the reverse information on the back side so my opponent could have the same thing I have here, and we don't have to share them. Is that a luxury? Sure. All right, I'm zoomed in on the foot units here because I want to show you the counters real quick. Now, let me get this to zoom in. To explain it, this card has everything you need to know, but let me point it out down on these counters real quick. So I've got the closest equivalent, sometimes direct equivalent marker for both the Russians along the top, the Germans along the bottom. The key things you'll be looking at here is the cost to shoot. So if this unit were engaged in combat, it would cost, or you would spend 3 APs. So when you're rolling the die, I'll explain that in a second. This MG unit 2, the mortar unit 3, and then you see the parentheses in 4. The 4 is indirect fire. So in other words, well, not indirect, it's spotted fire. There's a couple guys out, 2 hexes out, spotting while their mortar unit is maybe concealed. So you could use that, but it's going to be more costly to your action points to do so. Movement, you can see 1, 2 for the heavy machine gun or the machine gun. It's a little bulkier to move around, and the mortar is 3. Trust me, mortars are heavy. I've carried not only the rounds, but the butt plate. Heavy stuff to move around. You can see in the Iron Cross or in the star the relative ranges. And then the chance to hit, or the modifier that you'll be using to add to your dice roll, is the red number for infantry and the blue number, in this case 0, if you're going against an armored unit. But you can see your mortar's got a shot at doing some damage, and that heavy MG from the Germans do as well. I'll show you combat in a second, but I wanted to just show you these units and how they're laid out. One other very important thing, you can see these green markers with the little white base. That is your facing. So again, it's explained in the rules, but the 3 hexes in front of you are your front facing. And if you are being fired upon from the front facing, the opponent shooting at you has to have a die roll that will equal or exceed the bottom number. So in this case, 12, 12, 12, and 13. Now if you're hit from the flank, it's the number above this little white number. It's a lot easier to hit a unit when you flanked it. All right, we're going to take a combat action with this German unit. I'm going to use 3 APs, 3 action points, to fire at the Russians that are hiding in the woods, preparing to probably shoot or rush him. Who knows? They got a bunch of SMGs. All right, so we know he's going to shoot, and that's going to cost 3 action points. I'm going to set this aside because after he shoots, we're going to roll it, and we're going to see if the German unit is spent or if they will be able to take more actions on another turn. But we have to determine with the roll of 2 dice if they're going to hit. So they are firing at the Russians. They get to have 4, so you can see the red number is a 4. They're shooting into the woods. Now they're 2 hexes away, so that's just standard range. No bonuses for close combat, no bonuses for them being in close range or 1 hex adjacent. So that we have a 4. We're going to roll the dice, and what we need to do is get a 12, and then they have a +2. Those Russians have a +2 because they're hiding behind the tree trunks in this heavily wooded forest. We need to get at least 14 or greater in order to hit. That means I have to roll a 10 or more in order to hit them. So we have a 5 and a 4. So we have 9 plus the 4 from the German unit, giving us just shy. We end up coming at 13. We did not equal or exceed in order to get a hit. Now, a couple things that I could have done to modify this. Before I rolled the die, I could have chosen to use some of my caps. You can see I have it marked here at 6. You can use your command action points for up to 2 bonuses. So I could have used 2 of them, and I could have given myself an additional +2, which of course would have been great here. I would have had a hit. Let me pick up and show you another portion of this cap card. You can see down there that I've used a 3, again, for my attack. I have to roll above a 3. And this die, this 10-sided die, is weighted. On the die, there are 2 1s, a 2, 2 3s, a 4, 2 5s, a 6, and a 7. So it gives me these percentages that I'm showing you on the card. And I love having the percentages right on there because you kind of get a feel. So let me do this without adding any caps. Again, I could spin caps and I could reduce whatever the number is. But I roll, I get a 6. Perfect. I have to roll higher than the action cost. My action cost again was 3. That upper left-hand corner, that's what it cost me to shoot. I rolled above it. The unit is not spent. That means I can do another action with him even on the next turn. However, let me come in and get a stress marker. That unit is a little stressed. It's in combat. It is firing and probably about to be fired upon. If a unit is moving or firing or even rallying, it's under stress. So it's the Russians' turn. The Russians are going to now fire at the Germans who are in a building. They decide, you know what, we definitely want to hit these guys. We're going to spend our max of 2 caps. So they could add 1, they could add 2, they could add none, but they're going to add 2 to their die roll. Now again, we're going to check and see if they're spent after we do this combat. So we got to look again. The action's costing 3, they're shooting. They get a 5 because they have their submachine guns. They're within their normal range. They're going to roll, so they have a 5. They've spent 2 caps, so that's 6, 7. So they have a 7, and we got to look over and see. I can't quite see here. I know it's a 12. They're shooting at the front of the unit, so that's a 12. They are in a wood building, so they get a +1. So they need to get 13 or higher with their modified die roll to hit. So again, they have 5 as their base number, +2, 6, 7, and we're going to add them to this roll. 14. We have a hit. So again, they only needed to get to 13 or higher in order to have a hit. So they've hit the unit. Now they have to actually find out what did they do. So in the game, you have all of these hit counters. The red ones are for the infantry. All right, or non-armored. They're spread out in this tray, or you can put them in a cup. I actually kind of like them being in a cup because then they're all mixed up and an opaque cup and you can't tell what you're drawing. But if a unit is hit, they come in, the person who has that unit, they come in, they draw one of these tokens. And in this case, this would go down on the unit, but the Russians wouldn't be able to see that they've pinned the unit until there's some other action. So you have things like pinned or cowering. There's even a unit that says, or a counter that says units destroyed. So let me lay out a couple of these here. All right, the marker would be placed like so on top of the unit that takes the hit. And if there's some kind of, if this unit were to move or shoot, then you have to display, hey, what exactly happened, or if you're trying to rally. A rally is a way you'll remove that marker from your unit. But if you can see here with the stunned unit, there are no symbols, and they're corresponding with the corners of the counter. So it's as easy as this unit cannot shoot. It tells you, again, it's not going to have any kind of hit value at all. It's stunned. It cannot move. So these are drawn when you're hit, and they will affect your combat. Now let me remove that. So let's just say that these didn't happen. Maybe he missed. They got lucky. Oh, before we do that, we would check and see if the Russian is going to be spent. So he's again fired. It's a 3. He got the 5. So he's still active. Now we could go move another German unit. We could fire if there was another German unit. Maybe there's another unit that could apply fire. But we want to shoot with these guys again. So this stress marker is there to remind me that it's going to cost an extra AP, an extra action point to if I do something with this unit. So if I wanted to move him, it would cost 2. If I want to shoot, it's going to cost 4. We're going to shoot. We're going to risk it. So we're going to shoot, and this time the German is going to use 2 caps as well. So we would come in and say, you know what, I didn't do it last time. I'm using 2 of my caps, my command action points, and we've got an NCO that's really helping to aim everybody at the right target. So again, we're firing at the unit in the woods. It's a 12 to hit them from the front. They get +2, so 14 because they're in the heavy woods. I have a 4, and I've added 2 caps in order to hopefully hit this unit. So I have 6 to modify a 2d6. Very nice. I got a 10. So I have 16. I've equaled or exceeded 14. The unit would also take a hit and draw, or a potential hit, and draw one of these tokens. Now there is a neat caveat here as well. If you ever exceed the hit amount by 4 or greater, the unit is immediately destroyed. It's ineffective. Maybe they fled the battlefield. Maybe you've taken them all out. I didn't do that in this case, but it's important to know because sometimes you can get those modifiers kicking in or such a good die roll that the unit is just gone. It's combat ineffective. I would draw a counter. So again, we've drawn a counter. What did we draw? Stun. All right, he's not going to be able to shoot. He's not going to be able to move. I would not know that, so I don't know what the effect was at this point in time. Again, I've got to roll and see if I'm spent. So I used 3, but because the unit is stressed, it's a 4. I have got a 60% chance that this is going to be spent, and yes. So I've rolled. Again, I could have, you can't modify it after the roll. I could have pledged some caps to it. 2, this unit would be spent. And I wouldn't be able to use it for regular actions. Now, a caveat. One thing you can also use command action points for are to activate units that have been spent. Imagine a captain comes over and is like, again, orders a unit to start firing or engaging. But you would have to spend caps to do that. Your caps are precious. And your caps go down as you take hits as well as units are destroyed. So caps can modify your attack. They can allow you to modify the action die roll. They can allow you to take actions. The problem is you don't have enough. You also will have cards that you can come in and modify die rolls or use the cards to take an action instead of activating a unit. And it gives you a lot of fog of war and a lot of ability to affect what you're trying to do on the map. So that is basic combat using the 2d6, and you can see how easy this spent check is. Now, again, let's say there wasn't a Russian unit there, and all I wanted to do was get this German unit maybe into these heavy woods so that he's got some field of fire. Maybe I even would love to get him up here. But I don't know. I know it only costs me 1. All right, let's say there is no stress on him. And I've got a 20% chance of this unit moving into here and becoming spent. So the odds are pretty good, but maybe I want to add in a cap, all right, and get rid of that modifier. If I used a cap and made it cost 0 APs, I wouldn't even roll the die. He automatically is not spent. But let's say I wanted to risk it and I roll it. Oh, that was a 2. That's close. He's not spent, but he has a stress marker. The Russians take their turn. They activate whichever one of the guys they want to activate. They do their thing. Let's assume nobody has a line of fire on this unit, and it comes back to my turn. I could activate any other unit, any unit. This one, as long as they're not spent, okay, unless I use caps. But now let's say, yeah, I want to move them into these woods. Well, the woods are going to cost me an extra action. So normally it's only 1 to move. Moving into heavy woods costs 2. So I'm going to roll again. I've got a 7. He's still fresh, not spent. Oh, sorry. Not only 1 to go into the woods, not only 1 to move, but another 1 because of his stress. That would have been 3. I'm still above that number. He's safely into the woods. Now again, I would like to get into this spot. He's still active. He's not spent. He keeps that stress marker because he just did an action. It doesn't go up higher and higher, just 1 stress marker. The Russians take their turn, and I get another shot at moving. Now again, I'm moving into another hex that has heavy woods. Cost me 1. Cost me an extra 1 because of its woods. He's still stressed. I moved him on my last turn. I don't want to modify this. There's nobody to shoot at. I really just want to get him in there. He's moved in. And now we're going to see, is he spent? Yes. All right, I got a 1. I did not exceed the number again, which was 3. The unit goes spent. So I can't use him again for normal actions. I may be able to use a card. So there's cards that can say, hey, go ahead and take a free action with a spent unit. Adrenaline, great. Or if I have enough caps, I could simply say, you know what? I have 3 caps left. I actually have 4. And maybe a Russian unit pops up. I want to take a shot. I could spend all my caps to take that action with the spent unit. This die speeds everything up greatly. I'm going to explain or talk more about it in my review at the end, my conclusion, but I like it. I like it a lot. All right, back for final thoughts. So we're going to tick these off. First of all, the action die. Love it. Thought I was going to not hate it. Thought I would not use it. And I remember thinking, why is this new version being added? So the default, kind of the learner basic, is everybody gets, 7 APs, 7 APs. I don't like that. I haven't played it like that since the first time I learned it. You know what my unit can do. I know what my unit can do. Blah. So I went with roll 2 dice under the cup. You do it, I do it. You activate a unit, you roll those dice. I have no idea. Fog of War, I don't know if you just rolled crap or if you got boxcars and that unit's going to be just running all over the map shooting. You would count your APs up. So you're just tracking them as they go up, and you're looking at your die, you're taking a peek, and then you could means test it, which is much better. Add that 3rd die, kind of brings most of the things down around that 5, 6, 7, 8 range. Occasionally you'll get 666s. Sometimes you get triple snake eyes. Again, you count your APs up. That was the system I've been using for years, and I loved it. Occasionally, fiddly, a die falls off the table, you're digging around, looking for it underneath. You're bumping something on your AP count up, where was I at? I think you were there, okay? Your opponent had the Fog of War now, but you didn't. You knew you had, 2 6s and a 5. And you're going to be moving with 11 APs. You're going to be able to shoot. You're figuring out, I can get to that point on the map. It's going to cost me this much in movement. Then I'll be able to shoot, or maybe I can get to there and shoot twice. I can rally and still do some stuff with that unit. So you as the player knew what you were working with your APs. This dice adds the Fog of War not only to your opponent, but more critically to you. I had a unit I wanted to get across an open road into some heavy woods and then shoot. Normally I would know, can I even move him that far? Can I get that unit into the woods? And once there, will they be able to fight? You would know that before you committed to the action, the movement. You don't know that. I'm stepping into the open road. That cost me 1. I've got coverage from line of sight. Unit can't take a shot, but I really need him to get into this heavier woods. And all of a sudden, I'm like, man, there's a chance I could roll a 1. And he's done. I can't let that happen. So suddenly I'm throwing a command point on there so I don't have to roll at all. I don't have to roll, period. I know he's getting into the woods. I keep saying he. I know the unit's getting into the woods. But I spent that command point because I couldn't take the chance, no matter how small. And I was able to do that. It's like they had a great NCO with them. It was like, we ain't stopping here in the road. We're getting into the woods. Hustle, go. And then I got into the woods and I was even able to take a shot. And then the stress token was there. Don't forget, you're throwing that stress token on, just one. But I loved it. I had normally you're just nervous on that first roll. So again, you're not using the standard, you got 7, I got 7, blah. You're using a roll. And you get the nerves on, what am I going to roll here? I know what I want to do. What did I get? Yes, I can do it. That's gone. Now it's like, that feeling's not. I guess that feeling's there every single time you're rolling the action die. So it takes that tension you get from one roll and makes it every time you're rolling. What am I going to be able to do with this guy, this unit? I usually use my caps, my command action points, to +2 up combat. You want to get that hit, you need that hit. I'm saving them for that. All of a sudden, I'm using them to make sure I can get a movement down because I don't know. Love it. I mean, I love it. And I'm being 100% serious with you. I thought, all right, it's novelty. Let me try this thing. I don't think I'm going to like it better than the 3 dice under the cup counting up the APs. Yeah, that's gone. I'm using this. So a lot of people are like, trust me. Good. It'll be how I do it for all the games in the system now. Perfect. To the maps. Upgrade, obviously. Visually stunning. Nothing bad to say about them other than these old eyes still can't really make out the alphanumeric numbers. It's tough. They've added a little square, little rectangle surround them so that if they're in darker terrain or lighter terrain, they've got it so you can kind of see it a little better. It helps. And I'm not sure this would work, but I kind of wish like the side and the top had all the numbers, like they were all clearly visible. Maybe they're white. I know that would make the map ugly and you would see it coming down, but I almost want to lay like my own little chart out so I can see them at a glance. I'm always like, is that G8? No. Hold on, that was F6. God, I'm not even close. What am I looking at? I do need to print off for the hidden movement. Love the hidden movement. The sheets you can print off, and maybe that even helps a little bit. I don't know. I haven't printed them off yet. But, definitely for hidden movement. I love all the hidden movement stuff. The idea that if corn's in season, it's not offering you protection, but it will, if in season and grown tall, offer you concealment. Yes. I love that visual aspect there. The trays. Boy, I love the concept of the trays. I was excited about the trays. I like the fact that I can hand you the Germans, I take the Russians. There's the cards with the counters. We can flip those into the lid and spread them around. But they don't clamp well enough. They need a little bit of work. I store my games on the shelf like this. They're going to be all over the place. So you've already seen I'm rubber banding them. And they were a little fiddly to set up. In the old whole box tray, everything stood up like this and you had a lot of room. And I like to have light tanks in this little section, heavy tanks in this little section, my wheeled vehicles, my AT guns, my cruise served weapons, and now we're getting into my rifles and, whatever else. And I felt like, you'll have a lot more room in the old tray system. A lot of the room is taken up by the ability to separate these out, pass them around, and still make them sturdy. I wish I had a little more room. Here they lay down kind of at an angle to make it a little easier to visually see what you got there. Okay. But that means sometimes you're fiddly and you can't even get the little clamshell lid on because they're standing up too high, and I'll take one out. And then again, I got to rubber band them. I think there's some room for maybe a crimp or something where snaps in the middle, not just on the edges. I think I've already shown, yeah, I've already kind of pointed that out, so we won't belabor it. Graphically, the rule book, you know, the layout's already great. It baby steps you into harder and harder things, crew-served weapons and smoke and artillery and wheeled vehicles and AT guns and tracked and airplanes. That's still there, perfect. It's just functionally the pages are even more cleanly laid out. The helper aids, one small deal here, you got 2 of them, but there's nothing on the back, just white. Gosh, I wish they would have been back printed so you have 2 of the same identicals. The movement and movement costs and the protection of the different terrains on one side, boom, flip it over, and now you got the, you know, the double explanation, much bigger on this new version here, but you're able to make sure, hey, there's my movement, there's my you know, if what I'm hitting, or my flank, my head on, you know, double-sided. So now my partner has one, I have one, and we're not kind of, I don't know, it seemed like a waste of space. Double-side those. But, hey, you get it down, and you're not using them, you don't have them up all the time. Oh, on there, though, what they knocked out of the park was, in certain places, again, let's say the wheat, it'll have the rules explanation of, hey, when's it in season? And instead of explaining all that, it'll just send you to the rules. And there's little rules, the add, you know, 6.10.2. Smoke. I made that number up, whatever. But now you know, okay, I can just go look in the rule book if I need some more detailed information. Beautifully done. Perfectly done. Always a great index in the rule book, but having that on the card, even better. So as far as execution goes, just minor little things here that bugged me. Overall, home run, and a full convert on the action point die. Chief, Body with Board Games. See you guys.